At first, the radar shows only scattered contacts. Then dozens become hundreds. Hundreds become thousands. Across the horizon, 5,000 unmanned aircraft descend toward a lone U.S. Navy destroyers, some flying high, others skimming just above the waves, all approaching from different directions. Inside the Combat Information Center, sailors have seconds to decide what is real, what is a decoy, and what must be destroyed first. The ship carries some of the most advanced radar, missiles, electronic warfare equipment, and close-in guns ever taken to sea, but it faces one brutal mathematical problem. No destroyer carries 5,000 defensive missiles. So what happens when a billion-dollar warship confronts an attack built not around one unstoppable weapon, but around thousands of cheap, expendable targets? Could the ship's defenses tear the swarm apart, or would the attackers overwhelm it through sheer numbers? This scenario has never occurred at this scale, but using publicly known U.S. Navy capabilities and lessons from real drone attacks, we can build a realistic answer. And the outcome is far more complicated than simply counting missiles. The Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer was designed to fight aircraft, cruise missiles, submarines, surface ships, and ballistic threats. Its Aegis combat system combines powerful radar, computers, weapons control, and the Mark 41 vertical launching system into one integrated defensive network. Modern Flight 3 ships add the more capable AN/SPY-6 radar. But a 5,000 drone assault would represent something fundamentally different. It would not be a normal air raid. It would be an attempt to overload every stage of the destroyer's defensive process: detection, identification, tracking, weapon assignment, engagement, ammunition supply, and human decision-making. To understand whether the ship survives, we have to follow the battle from the moment the first drone appears. Before the attack begins, we need to separate cinematic possibility from operational reality. Launching 5,000 drones simultaneously would be an enormous military undertaking. The attacker would need thousands of airframes, launch sites or carrier vehicles, batteries or fuel, navigation systems, trained crews, communications equipment, and a method of coordinating the aircraft without creating chaos in the sky. Small commercial-style drones usually have limited range and endurance. Sending them far out to sea would require nearby ships, aircraft, islands, coastal territory, or specially designed long-range platforms. The swarm would also need a way to locate a moving destroyer. A warship is not a fixed building. It may travel at more than 30 knots, alter course, use emissions control, and operate beneath friendly aircraft and satellites. One official Navy description lists an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer's speed at over 30 knots, so a genuine 5,000 drone attack would probably not look like 5,000 identical quadcopters controlled by 5,000 pilots. A more realistic swarm would contain different categories. Some drones might serve as reconnaissance platforms. Some could act as electronic decoys. Others might carry small explosive charges. A smaller number could be larger, faster, and more destructive. Many might follow pre-programmed routes rather than remain under continuous control. That matters because the destroyer would not necessarily need to shoot down all 5,000. It would need to break the attack's coordination, destroy its most dangerous elements, and prevent enough drones from reaching vulnerable parts of the ship. But even achieving that would be extraordinarily difficult. The battle begins with sensors. An Arleigh Burke's Aegis system is designed to search, detect, track, and engage multiple airborne threats. Earlier ships center on versions of the Spy-1 phased array radar, while Flight 3 introduces AN/Spy-6V1, intended to provide greater sensitivity and improved awareness against advanced threats. Large drones flying at altitude might be detected at considerable distance. Small drones flying low would be much harder. The curvature of the Earth limits how far a ship's radar can see targets near the water, waves, land, weather, birds, surface clutter, and the drone's small radar signatures complicate the picture, and 5,000 contacts create another problem. The radar may detect them, but detection is not the same as understanding them. The combat system must build tracks, estimate speed and direction, determine which contacts are threatening, and assign weapons without wasting valuable ammunition on harmless objects or decoys. Operators would not see a simple cloud labeled enemy swarm. They would see a constantly changing tactical picture filled with tracks that split, merge, disappear behind clutter, and approach at different speeds. This is where the Aegis system's automation becomes essential. No human team could manually manage 5,000 individual targets in real time. Computers would help rank threats and recommend engagements. But the ship would still face the central question: which drones must die first? The title imagines an attack on one destroyer, but U.S. warships are normally most effective as part of a network. Destroyers can operate independently, but they also operate with carrier strike groups, surface action groups, amphibious forces, and other naval formations. That means the ship may receive warning from aircraft, satellites, another warship, or shore-based sensors before its own radar detects the swarm. Friendly fighters could attack launch platforms or destroy larger drones beyond the destroyer's weapons range. Another Aegis ship could contribute missiles. Helicopters might visually identify contacts or engage slow drones under suitable conditions. Land-based aircraft could strike control stations. In a real battle, the Navy's preferred solution would not be to allow 5,000 drones to reach one destroyer. It would try to dismantle the attack before launch, disrupt it in transit, and combine the defensive power of multiple platforms. But suppose the destroyer is isolated, the swarm is already airborne, and help will not arrive in time. The ship now enters its first defensive layer. The cheapest way to defeat a drone is often not to hit it with an expensive missile. It is to make the drone stop functioning. Many unmanned aircraft depend on radio links, satellite navigation, radar altimeters, data networks, or external targeting information. Warships' electronic warfare systems may detect hostile emissions, warn the crew, confuse sensors, interfere with communications, or help deploy deceptive countermeasures. Against ordinary, remotely controlled drones, jamming could sever the link between the aircraft and its operator. Some may drift away, some may crash, others may enter a pre-programmed return mode, but a serious attacker would anticipate this. More sophisticated drones could navigate inertially, follow stored terrain or imagery home on missions, or continue toward the ship after losing communications. A swarm might also use autonomous coordination, allowing aircraft to exchange information locally instead of depending on one central control signal. Electronic warfare could therefore destroy the swarm's organization without destroying every aircraft. That could be decisive. A coordinated attack can divide into waves, approach from multiple bearings, and concentrate on specific sensors or weapon mounts. A disorganized mass may arrive unevenly and become easier to defeat. But jamming is not magic. Some drones would continue, and the destroyer would begin launching missiles. The Mark 41 vertical launching system allows an Arleigh Burke to carry different combinations of missiles depending on its mission and loadout. Aegis integrates those weapons with the ship's sensors and fire control network. Longer-range, standard missiles could engage dangerous aircraft or larger unmanned systems before they reach the ship. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles are designed for shorter-range fleet defense and can provide another layer against airborne threats. But this is where mathematics becomes ugly. A destroyer has a finite number of vertical launch cells. Those cells are not all filled with anti-aircraft weapons. The ship may also carry Tomahawk land attack missiles and anti-submarine weapons depending on deployment requirements. Even when some smaller defensive missiles can be packed more efficiently than larger weapons, the ship still cannot launch thousands of them. Using a multi-million-dollar interceptor against every small drone would be financially painful, but cost is not the immediate battlefield problem. Magazine depth is, once a missile leaves its cell, that cell cannot normally be reloaded at sea during the battle. The captain must preserve weapons for the most dangerous targets. A slow drone carrying a small explosive charge might be left for electronic warfare or guns. A larger aircraft diving toward the radar will receive immediate missile engagement. A fast threat believed to carry a heavy warhead moves to the top of the list. The destroyer is no longer trying to create an empty sky. It is managing leakage. Some drones will be allowed closer because the ship cannot afford to engage everything at long range. The smartest swarm would not consist entirely of explosive aircraft. Hundreds or even thousands could be cheap decoys. Their job would be to make the destroyer reveal its sensors, waste missiles, and fill the tactical display with confusing information. Some might carry radar reflectors to appear larger. Others could transmit signals that imitate more dangerous systems. A few could deliberately fly predictable routes, hoping the ship engages them first. Behind those decoys would come the actual attack aircraft. This creates a dilemma. Ignore a contact and it may be armed. Engage it and it may be an empty airframe designed to consume ammunition. Modern combat systems use speed, flight path, radar behavior, electronic emissions, and other information to classify threats. But classification under pressure is never perfect. The attackers do not need every deception to work. They only need enough uncertainty to slow decisions and drain defensive magazines. And as the swarm closes, the battle becomes faster, louder, and far more physical. Threats surviving the outer missile screen enter the destroyer's closed defense zone. The exact weapon's fit varies between ships and upgrades, but close-in defenses can include systems such as Phalanx CIWS, CRAM on certain vessels, the 5-inch gun, smaller crew-served weapons, and electronic countermeasures. CRAM combines sensors associated with Phalanx with an 11-round rolling airframe missile launcher. The Navy describes it as a self-contained system for defense against aircraft and anti-ship threats. Phalanx uses a radar-directed 20mm Gatling gun as a final line of defense. NAVCA characterizes close-in weapon systems as point defense weapons intended to detect, track, and engage short-range threats. The Mark 45 5-inch gun could potentially engage some slower or grouped airborne targets using suitable ammunition and fire control solutions. But none of these weapons has unlimited reach, ammunition, or firing opportunity. A gun can only point in one direction at a time. The ship's superstructure can block certain firing arcs. Smoke, debris, fragments, and burning drones would clutter sensors, and every destroyed drone creates falling wreckage that may still strike the vessel. At this distance, seconds matter. The inner layer might destroy dozens, perhaps far more under favorable conditions, but against thousands arriving nearly together, some would almost certainly pass through. Then the crew would fight at visual range. A small drone carrying a modest explosive charge probably cannot sink an Arleigh Burke with one impact. The destroyer is an all-steel warship built with survivability and damage control in mind, but sinking is not the only way to defeat a ship. A drone striking a radar array could reduce the ship's awareness. Another could damage communications equipment. Impacts near missile launch cells, the bridge, exposed antennas, helicopter facilities, or the close-in weapon system could progressively strip away defensive capability. Even small explosives can start fires, scatter fragments, rupture cables, and injure personnel. The swarm's goal might be mission kill rather than immediate sinking, blind the radar, disable propulsion control, damage the combat system, force the ship to withdraw, Once the first impacts occur, the destroyer's crew would split between continuing the battle and saving the ship. Damage control teams would fight fires, isolate electrical systems, repair ruptured lines, move casualties, and prevent smoke or flooding from spreading. Meanwhile, combat system operators would still be tracking incoming drones. This is the nightmare of saturation warfare. Every successful hit makes the next hit easier. The honest answer is it depends entirely on the drones. 5,000 tiny surveillance quadcopters would not equal 5,000 purpose-built attack aircraft. Payload, speed, range, guidance, formation, weather, approach direction, and timing would determine the outcome. If most were small, slow, lightly armed, and dependent on vulnerable control links, electronic warfare and layered defenses could defeat enormous numbers. If they arrived gradually, the destroyer would gain more opportunities to engage them. If friendly aircraft and other ships were present, the swarm could be devastated long before reaching the target. But if thousands of autonomous explosive drones arrived from multiple directions within a compressed period, no single current destroyer could physically shoot down everyone. Some would reach the ship. Whether they sank it would depend on where they struck and how much explosive force they carried. A handful of small hits might cause limited damage. Repeated precision strikes against sensors, weapons, and engineering spaces could produce a mission kill. Larger warheads impacting near the waterline could create flooding. A combination of fires, structural damage, and follow-on attacks might eventually overwhelm damage control. Therefore, the realistic conclusion is not that 5,000 drones automatically sink the destroyer. It is that a perfectly coordinated swarm of that scale could exceed the magazine and engagement capacity of a lone ship. The destroyer's survival would depend on disrupting the swarm, not simply shooting at every drone. No U.S. destroyer has faced 5,000 drones in one attack, but naval forces have already experienced smaller saturation attacks. In January 2024, U.S. and British forces defeated an attack involving nearly 20 drones and several missiles in the Red Sea. The Department of Defense has also reported dozens of Houthi missiles and unmanned systems intercepted by U.S. and partner naval vessels. These engagements proved that modern destroyers can detect and destroy real airborne threats under combat conditions. They also exposed the economic and logistical challenge. Defensive missiles are finite. Repeated attacks create pressure on ammunition stocks, maintenance, crew fatigue, and deployment schedules. A swarm does not need to defeat the ship in the first 5 minutes. It can attempt to exhaust the ship across days or weeks. That may be the more realistic threat, not 5,000 drones in one cinematic wave, but hundreds of attacks designed to drain defenses gradually. The Navy's future answer will likely combine missiles, electronic warfare, guns, automation, directed energy, and unmanned systems. High-energy lasers are attractive because while they require electrical power and cooling, they are not limited by a magazine of conventional projectiles in the same way missiles are. Lasers could potentially engage inexpensive drones at a far lower cost per shot. But weather, atmospheric conditions, range, dwell time, and power availability affect their performance. Microwave weapons may offer another approach by disrupting electronics across a wider area. Artificial intelligence could help classify thousands of tracks faster and recommend which weapons should engage which targets. Defensive drones could intercept hostile drones away from the ship, and future formations may distribute weapons across crewed and unmanned vessels so that no single destroyer carries the entire defensive burden. Flight 3 Arleigh Burke destroyers already introduced the more capable Spy-6 radar and substantial electrical and cooling modifications intended to support advanced combat systems. But the larger lesson is clear. Against mass, the Navy needs mass of its own. More sensors, more launchers, more platforms, and cheaper ways to destroy cheap threats. So, what happens if 5,000 drones attack a U.S. destroyer? The swarm is detected. Electronic warfare attempts to break its coordination. Long-range missiles destroy the most dangerous targets. Shorter-range weapons engage whatever survives. Close-in guns and missiles fight the final wave, then sailors battle fires, fragments, and damaged systems as drones continue falling from the sky. The destroyer could destroy astonishing numbers of attackers, but no lone warship carries enough conventional ammunition to guarantee the destruction of 5,000 simultaneous threats. Its real chance of survival would come from something more sophisticated: confusing the swarm, separating it, destroying its control structure, prioritizing the aircraft that matters, and receiving support from the wider fleet before the attack reaches its final stage. The Arleigh Burke was built to defeat powerful weapons, but a drone swarm asks a different question. What happens when the enemy does not build one weapon powerful enough to penetrate this, but instead builds so many cheap ones that your defenses eventually run out? That is why the future of naval warfare may not be decided by the fastest missile or the largest warship. It may be decided by which side can control the greater number of machines and which side can keep fighting after the sky becomes completely full. Could one destroyer survive this swarm, or would sheer numbers eventually overwhelm it? Share your verdict in the comments, and subscribe for more realistic naval warfare scenarios.